thank you for purchasing our DIY gnome kit. Today I'm going to show you how to make one of the gnomes in your kit. So first we're going to start by putting the rice in a tall glass. Then we can take our sock that's provided, put it over, and this is a nice easy way to get all the rice in without spilling it anywhere. Just like that. So now this is going to be used for the body. We want to squish as much rice down as we can, but still keeping it tall. We're going to take one of the elastics provided in the kit and we're going to tie it off at the top. 2 or 3 times should work. Now this is what we're going to use for our gnome body. To make sure the elastics stay in place, we're going to take one of the strings and we're just going to tie it around once, and then we're going to do a double knot just to make sure it stays secured. And big tight pull, just like that. We can now take our scissors and cut off the excess and put that in the garbage. Now we have this big part up top. We don't need it, so we can cut it as close as we can from right where we tied it. Just like that. Now this part can be a little bit tricky and it might take some practice, but now we're gonna make the nose of our gnome. So what we're gonna do is take 2 fingers from the top and pick this area right here. We're going to grab it as best as we can, pinch, take our second elastic and try and tie it as best you can. If you want a larger nose, you can keep it like that. If not, pull the elastic a bit and just play around with it until your nose is the desired size. Now, because we're going to be using hot glue later, we do want to make sure that we tie the nose as well, just so that the elastic does not snap. So now we're going to take our string. It's best to tie it under just so that the beard will cover any excess string. We're going to tie it tightly once and one more time, just like that. And now again, we can take our scissors and snip the end. And this is how you make your gnome body. So now that we have our glue gun plugged in, we're just going to wait for that to heat up. And we do want to make sure we have a parent with us for this because the glue guns can get very hot and we don't want to burn ourselves. So to start, we're going to have our sock that comes in your kit. Yours might be fluffy or yours might be a plaid, whatever you guys ordered. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our sock and we're gonna cut it right in the middle along the heel. Again, scissors can be dangerous, so let's make sure we have a parent or guardian with us while we're doing it. So now we should have 2 halves to the sock. This is gonna be the hat and this is gonna be the body. Every gnome is gonna be a little bit different because we're making them ourselves. So we wanna measure out approximately where the under the nose would be. So I'm gonna cut it right here because that's where my nose is. You always want to cut it a little bit higher and then put it on, because if it's too short, then you might not have enough. So we're going to cut it a little bit high for now, just to be safe. Just like that. So now this part can go in the garbage because we do not need it. And this part is going to go on our gnome. So I like to take it and stretch it out as much as you can, and you're going to put it right on top. So your gnome will squish a little bit, but that's okay because we just need to play around with it. We're going to take our sock and we're going to give him a nice little sweater, just like that. You want to make sure you don't cover the entire bottom, but you want enough so that when your gnome is sitting down, we don't see the white. So I cut mine pretty perfect because it's sitting right there under his nose. If your guys' sock is up here a little bit, you can just take the scissors and cut around. You just want the sock to be right under the nose, just like that. While we're still waiting for our hot glue to heat up, we're going to do the hat. This part can be a little bit tricky because the pom-poms need to be a nice round circle. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our stuffing, we're gonna start with just a little bit, and we're gonna take it and we're gonna shove it right to the top of the hat there. Because you see this black area, or whatever color is on your sock, that's gonna be the pom-pom. So for example, in this sock, this pink part would be the pom-pom, and in this white and blue sock, this white part would be the pom-pom. So now that we have some stuffing inside, we can push it up as much as we can, and as you can see, it's not quite enough, so we're going to take a little bit more and put it in. And push it up as much as you can. Now you're going to take another elastic that should be in your kit, and you're just going to tie off the top as best as you can. 2 times should work because we're going to have to play around with it a little bit, and we don't want it to be too tight. So now we see I have the circle, but we can still see some of the plaid, and that's not quite what we want. So we're gonna take it. I like to pick up the elastic and kind of pull it around the entire thing until all the gray is gone. Or if there's some areas where the black is still here, I do the opposite. I will pull this down and I will pull the black up. So at this point, you're just gonna play around with it until it's mostly all black at the top. If you find your pom-pom is not large enough, you can take some stuffing and push it in through the hole where the elastic is. But I think this one's pretty good for my gnome, so I'm gonna keep it the way it is. You're also gonna wanna put a little bit of stuffing inside the hat just so that it stands up nice and tall. Just like this. Now that our hot glue has heated up, we're going to wanna put glue all the way around here so that our gnome stays together. I'm gonna take the hot glue very carefully, and I'm gonna start by putting a little bit right there. Now I'm gonna take the sock on the side where the hot glue is not, and I'm gonna pull it up and then press. Be very careful because the hot glue can be hot and sometimes the socks are thin and it will go through. So a good way to do this would be to use a pen to push down because that helps sometimes as well. And then we're gonna do the same thing on the other side, and we're just gonna go all the way around with the hot glue. And now as best we can, we're just gonna pull up and make sure it gets stuck there because we don't want our gnome's body to be falling off. It might be a good idea to get a parent to do this part just in case the hot glue gets on you. There we go, so now my body is stuck on my gnome. The next step would be to use our beard. So your beard will either come with a white or black, and they're already pre-cut for you guys. So what you're going to want to do is the nose here is gonna be different for everyone. So I like to take the beard, line it up with the top, and find out where my nose ends. My nose ends here, which is about right here on my beard. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my scissors, and I'm very carefully only gonna cut the area here, because if I cut over here, you're gonna get the hairs, and then it might not look as nice. So we're gonna take our scissors, and we're just gonna very slowly cut this side, getting as close as you can to the fabric without getting the beard. So you just wanna put the tip of your scissors in, and you're gonna do a U shape. So there you go. So now this part is where our nose is gonna go. So this part can go in the garbage, and I do recommend taking the hair here and just making sure we get any excess that might have been cut out. And now we can just lay it flat again, and now we have our beautiful beard. So this beard is gonna come right up under the nose, and we're gonna pull it as high as we can. So that's where it's going to sit, just like that. But first we need to put some hot glue on it to make sure it stays in place. You don't need a lot of glue for this because it's only gonna go on certain areas. I like to take the glue and put it right here, and then along this U shape. It doesn't need to be perfect. Sometimes materials will fall on the ground. And now we're going to take it, we're going to go up, we're going to glue this here, and glue this here. It doesn't need to be perfect because the hat will cover a majority of it. And now you have your cute little gnome beard. So while we're waiting for that glue to dry, we can start working with the hat. So you're going to take your hat and make sure you have enough stuffing in it. I'm gonna put a little bit more because I like my gnome's hat to be nice and tall. So we're going to see the side over here, there's a little bit of excess black and then it's gray around the other part. This is where we cut in the middle of the heel. This part wants to be on the back so that the gnome has a nice long hat. So we're going to take it, stretch it out a bit, and place it right on top. So right now it does look a little bit weird because we do need to fix the trimming on it. This part is probably one of the longest and the trickiest parts to perfect, but that's okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make sure this is nice and rolled up here because we're going to be gluing underneath, folding it down, and then cutting it. I like to start where the nose is because this is the most visual part of the gnome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hot glue, I'm going to lift this up here, and I'm going to put a little tiny dot of hot glue right there. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna roll it over slightly so that it dries. Again, the hot glue might go through the sock, so you can use a pen for this part. just to keep it pressed down while it dries. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put a little bit of glue on each side of the nose to make sure it gets stuck there. 1, 2, just on the sides like that. And now we're going to pull this down and hold it. Hot glue dries pretty fast, so there we go. Now I have the nose where I like him, and I'm going to look around the body to make sure the hat is positioned how I like him. And I think he's looking pretty cute so far. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put hot glue right around the edge of the entire gnome, making sure not to get it on the beard. So now that I have that done, I'm going to push the corners of my hat down and roll it on top. Again, waiting for the hot glue to dry. Once that's done, I'm gonna roll up any excess that was not glued down. And I'm going to cut it around with my scissors. I like to start in the back, grab the excess, do a little snip, and you can see here where it's glued down, so that part will not lift up. So what I wanna do, because when I'm pulling it, you can see that this part is glued, this part is not. I'm just gonna wanna snip around as close to where the glue is to get all this excess off. Here we're gonna wanna be very careful not to cut the beard. So now I'm getting to my nose where it is glued, so I'm just going to leave it for now. And I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. Now that we've gotten to the nose, this part we want to be very careful. I like to lift it up as best as I can and then just get right under it like that. And then here we can just snip it off. So you will have a little bit in your beard. You can just play around with it until you get it off, or I like to blow on it a little bit just to get all the little extra fuzzies off. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the trim that came in our box. We are going to find the end of it, which is right here. And we're gonna start over here. We're gonna put a drop of glue here and bring it along a little bit. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna give us a nice place to glue this down. So we're just gonna do a little bit at a time. So be very careful while you're doing this. You're going to glue it down and push. And we're just gonna wait for it to dry a little bit. Once it's staying in place on its own, we're gonna put a little bit more glue and bring it along the rim of the hat. And we're gonna do that all the way around. Up until you get to the nose. The nose part is a little bit tricky because we don't want it going straight across. We want it to look like it has a hat that's flopping down. So what we're going to do is we're gonna do a little bit of a upside down U shape just along the top here. And we're going to glue it down. If you can still see a little bit of the hat, that's okay for now because we will fix it up at the end. Now we're gonna go around and glue the entire thing. Still just little by little to make sure it is sticking on. And once we reach the end here, before gluing it, we're just gonna pull it to see approximately how long it will be. Mine should end right about here, so I'm gonna give it a little snip. Now we're gonna put glue all the way to the end. And we just push down, being very careful not to burn ourselves with the glue. If you do happen to get hot glue on yourself, I would recommend going to the sink, putting on cold water and letting your hand or fingers sit there until you no longer feel a burning sensation. Now we have our little gnome. However, we can still see a bit of the hat there, and there are some hot glue bits, so we're just gonna try and clean them up as best as we can. So what I'm gonna do here, because we can still see the black, is I'm gonna put a little hot drop of glue there and a little in there so that we can take this and fold it over a bit more so that it doesn't become as visible. So I put a little bit of a drop of glue there, and I'm just gonna push them down so that it sticks. And there you have it. Now you can fluff out your beard as much as you like. You can give him a little bit of a mustache by just taking the top parts there and pulling them out. And there you have it. That is how you make your own gnome.